If you run a company, work culture isn't just a part of your job. It is your job. Everything else, performance, profit, innovation, execution, is downstream from the culture you intentionally create every day. It's a hard job, but it's the one you signed up for. What grade would you give yourself? What do you think your team would say? I spoke with Kyle Johnston, Jacky Northgrave, and Kianna Miller from Gigasavvy, an ad agency based in Orange County, California, to see what this dynamic looks like in reality. They're a remote-first agency. Kyle runs things from Idaho. Jacky is a senior art director in Memphis, and Kianna is a senior account supervisor in SoCal. They get along well, even finish each other's sentences at times. Not easy to do across time zones. The culture has clearly evolved over the years, from scrappy beginnings in 2008 to a big office in Irvine with a built-in bowling lane to a work your butt off but work from anywhere vibe. But the most interesting thing I noticed was how they navigate the inherent cultural tensions in any agency. Most agency folks have a workaholic bent. We do this work because we're obsessed with it, and we don't want that obsession taken advantage of. Most agency folks are relentlessly curious. Leaders need to feed that with transparency and over-communication, and not burden the team with the weight of every last detail. Most agency folks are very opinionated. You've got to let people speak their mind and make their points, and you better create a baseline of humility and respect where things can turn toxic fast. Gigasavvy seems to manage all of this pretty well. Kyle prioritizes culture. Jacky and Kianna clearly see their role in bringing that culture to life. They smile a lot. Genuine, full-faced smiles. That says something. What would the faces say if I interviewed your company? Welcome to the DesuckifyWork podcast, the show where we cut through the BS and find ways to make work more fun, more human, and less ridiculous. All of which makes your business more profitable, by the way. If you enjoyed this one, please like, share, rate, review, or subscribe to the podcast. Let the desuckifying begin. Here's Kyle, Jacky, and Kianna. Okay, Kyle, Jacky, and Kianna, welcome to the DesuckifyWork podcast.
Thanks,
Nice
TJ.
to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming, guys. This is going to be a fun one. I think it's funny. I had posted something a few months ago, and I think, Kyle, you had noted it, where I was just trying to explore the relationship between leadership in a company or an agency and folks who are a little bit more in the work every day. And just what I've noticed is that sometimes there's some tension there. I feel sometimes can be unnecessarily so, but there is real stuff there too. It's like, as a leader, you have privy to certain information that maybe you don't when you're not at that position. So I just want to explore that with you all today and just kind of see, like, how are you guys doing some things that work really well? And if there's certain areas where you're like, hey, maybe we could push on this, we'll explore that too. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Let's go.
Awesome. Well, before we dive in too much, I want to give you each a chance to introduce yourself. I'll start with you, Jacky. You want to tell us who you are and what you do and any other relevant background info?
Yeah, cute. Okay. I'm Jacky Northgrave. I'm the senior art director at Gigasavvy. I've been with the company for a few years now. And prior to that, my bread and butter is branding. I created a bunch of products, brands that are in department stores, even still to this day. So had a lot of cool opportunities, built pop-up shops, store design, in-store displays, the works. So that's super fun. I love my job. I'm a workaholic. I also, outside of my job, have 3 kids who I love very much. And yeah, I live in Memphis, Tennessee. Used to live in Orange County, and I miss it every day. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell, I guess.
Very cool. Well, Memphis is on my list at some point just because I'm a big blues fan. So at some point I would love to check out something there, but I get missing Orange County. We used to live there too and live in Arizona now. And I love Arizona, but it's hard not to miss Orange County.
Right.
Three kids and a workaholic. So you're fairly busy, I would say.
Yeah, just a touch. Yeah. But I love it. Yeah, it's great.
Awesome. Kianna, what about you?
I'm Kianna Estenson, soon to be Kianna Miller.
Oh,
Very
nice.
excited. Thank you. I I've been with Gigasavvy over 8 years, which feels crazy to say
Mm,
out loud. Senior account supervisor, worked my way up from the account manager position way back when. So I work with all of our clients. I like to say that my job is relationships, which is super fun. I've always been a people person. On the report card, I got like means to talk less in class kind of vibe. Becky, I feel like you might have got that one too.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I love partnering with our clients, whether it's a new client or standing client relationships, some of which, I've been on my entire time at Gigasavvy. I like just learning more about their business, kind of what their challenges are, and then how we can kind of meet and satisfy those needs. Partnering with them on kind of cool creative projects, whether that is branding, on-property activations, CPG, commercials, anything in the works. So
awesome.
definitely something new kind of every day at Gigasavvy, which is fun.
Yeah, I'm curious for you. You've been there 8 years. What's been the biggest change over those years?
Oh my God. There have been many. There have been many. We at one point were kind of a growing in size agency. Kyle, what we were up to almost like 50. We had our office, which was very fun days. We love to talk about back in the office days pre-COVID,
Mm,
where it was like very like party energy. It was super fun. We had a really kind of like overall young crew.
hmm
So, there was that kind of time at the agency where we had a bunch of different departments and then getting a little bit more, focused and kind of how we have the agency structured today, a little bit more of a tight-knit team, obviously remote. So I think that even just looking at when I started to today, there's been a lot of changes at the agency. But it's been really cool to like grow personally and grow with the team and kind of grow together. So I think that's something kind of unique about being at an agency for so long.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think you guys had a bowling alley in that building, didn't
Yes.
you? That was kind of
Yes,
wild.
and having client meetings when people wanted to bowl, when the dev guys were like, 4 o'clock, let's go make some drinks and bowl. And I'm like presenting a strategy. I'm like, maybe not right now.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Well, pretty cool though, regardless. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle, what's your deal?
Yeah, and before I introduce myself, one question which TJ won't ask Kianna was, where did you meet your husband, Kianna?
Boy, here we go. Yeah, Gigasavvy, match
Look at
made.
that.
I think there's like what, 4 people, or I guess 8 people, but like 4 marriages that have come out of
Wow.
Gigasavvy. So it's the new
Yep.
Tinder. If anyone's looking, come get a job here.
Very good. Good to know if anybody's kind of out there looking to find somebody. I'll just point them,
Apply.
have them send a resume over and see what
Right.
happens.
It's a perk of the job.
Yeah, that's great. I love it.
Yeah, so sorry for that segue, TJ, but
No worries.
yeah, so I'm Kyle Johnston, president founding partner at the agency. Helped start things up back in 2008, so still surprises me to this day that we've been around now for 18 years.
Mm,
As Kianna mentioned, we've been a lot of different things. We've had full service in our explanation for a while, and I decided that that was not a realistic thing to be able to provide our clients at that particular time with where I think our talents were, where our passions were, more importantly.
hmm
Everybody just gravitated towards creative things and things that you could, see, feel, touch, hear, all those things, as opposed to maybe some of the, behind the scenes stuff that we were doing back in the day, media buying and optimizations management, website development, all great things and all part of the marketing mix, but things that I think overall the team just wasn't passionate about. And
Yeah.
for me personally too, I actually came on as the first employee originally before acquiring ownership. And so when I was given the opportunity to kind of change the direction, I couldn't help myself. It was just all about, what I loved, which great news was also what the rest of the team loved. And that was
Mhm.
really in creative. And so we pivoted pretty hard that direction. And as Kianna pointed out, we're just a small, mighty team now that focuses on crafting big ideas and then bringing them to life for our clients to solve those business problems and to do it in fun, new, and exciting ways. I mean, we love saying, we're a challenger agency, or that doesn't necessarily mean though that we work with challenger brands. I think it's more of a challenger mentality. So
Mhm.
maybe brands that just want to make a change or stand out amongst the crowd or do things differently. And that's always been something that I've been passionate about as well. So yeah, it's been 18 years. I got two kids myself, two active boys that play sports. So when I'm not, working here in my office remotely, I'm either chasing them around the neighborhood or taking them to sporting events all over the country.
Nice.
That's me in a
Awesome.
nutshell.
Well, I mean, I am curious because since Jackie, you mentioned that you're a quote unquote workaholic. I'm curious for you, Kyle, and for you, Kianna, where are you on the work spectrum? Like what role does work play in your life?
You want to go first, Kianna?
Sure. Sure. I mean, the thing is that Jackie and I work very closely together on a lot of projects.
Mm-hmm.
So usually we're working at the same time. Even when we're not working, we're still talking now. But
Yeah.
yes, I would definitely say work is a big part of my life. I also think that kind of happens with the working remote environment, right? We've all kind of like carved out dedicated places in our homes that can be that kind of workspace. So I'd say I definitely teeter on that workaholic scale as well.
Got it.
I think that's kind of the nature of agency life though, sometimes, is that you have these projects, they're quick, you want to get them done, they're exciting, you can kind of feel that adrenaline and that build. So every kind of project is its own little challenge where you have the deadline and you kind of race towards it. And Jackie and I just can't seem to stop chatting when we get these ideas together. So.
Something that I will say, sorry, Kyle, I know that he asked you too, but something that I will say is like, there's something about the passion and the pure joy of like what we do. And I think that comes so strong in Kianna's work and is just something that's like, I respect so much. And it just like adds a level of like trust, respect, appreciation, because we are such a small agency and we all just grind and get the work done. But then there is just like a extra layer of just the passion and just the love for what it is that we do and what I do and what Kianna does. So I think that kind of comes through as like workaholic, but whether that's healthy or not, I mean, who's to say? But I love it.
Totally. I mean, I think that's that whole work-life balance, question that always comes up. Like, if you have to focus so much on a balance, is there a deeper problem there that you just don't love what you do? And let's be realistic, not everybody absolutely loves what they do, but if you do, and that's great, congratulations, you've made it. Like you really have.
Yeah.
Maybe work-life balance isn't such a big thing. For me, so much of my job is, leading, thinking, making decisions, that kind of stuff. So my biggest challenge more so is just creating boundaries for my thinking so I can be present at home with my wife and my kids. Because if my mind's elsewhere, it's really clear to those that are around me that I'm thinking about, work as opposed to being, present in the room. So that's my biggest challenge, I think, with being a workaholic, is just being able to like draw that line in my brain more than, necessarily just being in my office or being at my computer. So I can still be, a great dad, because that's really important for me to be, a good dad and a good husband. So, drawing those lines there is my biggest challenge from a workaholic perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting thing. I mean, so all of you are feeling this sense of like really intensely into the work, right? And then you've got other things in your life that you're balancing it with. And I like hearing about the mindset shift as much as like exactly how many hours do I spend doing this, but it's like, if I'm here, I'm here. And if I'm there, I'm there. That makes such a difference. How does that sort of show up in the culture of the agency? So three of you are all very into, the work. Do you find that that's like just part of the culture being that way? And how do you keep it from bleeding into a place where it becomes too much when everybody's so naturally inclined towards the work?
Yeah, and I think the added layer on that is being remote too, right? Where it's not just about being online and ready to answer a question that somebody has on Slack or whatever, but it's figuring out amongst yourself, like, when are you most productive in what you do and what's expected of you, right? And like, I know Jackie and our creative team, for example, I think that's probably the biggest challenge, right? Because to be creative, you have to be inspired and you have to feel like what you're creating is great, right? And sometimes it's just not there, right? Like I'm a creative person too, and sometimes when I'm trying to solve a
Exactly.
problem or think about how I'm going to express something, it's like sometimes you just don't have it, right?
Mhm.
And so, but the deadline is still the deadline, and you still got to get something out and get something done. So, what do you do? And I think that's where the collaboration kind of comes in with our team, where it's like sometimes you just need to pivot or you need to change what you're doing for a minute and hop on Slack, or maybe it happens naturally. Like something comes up on a Slack channel. Like we do whiteboard prompts pretty often where somebody will just put something random into Slack that says, hey, like, what was the one from this week? Kianna?
Does salty or sweet snack
Right.
review.
Salty or sweet snack. So it's like,
Right.
great. It's meaningless, but also interesting, right? You start to
Mhm.
hear everybody's opinions and they're shoving pictures and videos in of their snacks. And so it's like nice little mindset change, read some things, and then you get back to your work and you're like, oh yeah, okay. Now maybe something as simple as that can be inspiring to go conquer
Mhm.
whatever you had to conquer by the
Yep.
deadline. So yeah, the remote environment is really challenged us, I think, a lot to
Yeah.
think about how we can collaborate differently and unstructured, right? Like
Mhm.
we don't have near as many, like people question me sometimes as a creative agency. They're like, a remote creative agency? Well, like, don't you guys sit in a room and have a brainstorm like session and a whiteboard? And I'm like, well, no, we don't.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we don't also do that in different ways. And we've had to figure out what those
Mhm.
are,
Yeah.
combination of software technology, basic things like Slack, and just this open communication pattern that I think we've achieved over the years that creates the level of collaboration that breeds good work.
Mm. Yeah. How do you guys experience that, Kianna and Jackie? I mean, what's been your take?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I feel to your original question of, how do we balance this like
Mhm.
intense drive, intense passion, foot on
Yeah.
the gas culture, which I
Mhm.
definitely think we have at Gigasavvy, with also like boundaries and personal life, and people have families or things going on outside of the job. And I think like really the recipe that makes that work is that, I mean, this sounds like cheesy, but we all genuinely really like each other. Like
Mhm.
I am very
Yeah.
happy to hang out with my coworkers. I'm very happy to like learn about their lives. When we have like our in-person hangouts, I like genuinely enjoy getting to see everyone together.
Mhm.
But there is kind of this collective mindset of like we all want to do a good job. We're all here because we want to be here and, kind of get to own our own lane of whatever our respective job is. So I
Mhm.
think that we're all really good at kind of like plugging in, doing that, understanding that. But if something comes up, if someone's kid is sick, if someone doesn't feel good that day, if someone's having a personal day, something in their life's going on, I think that all of us collectively are like, okay, no problem. We can step in and cover. You go do what you need to do. So I think the respect and understanding that we all offer each other when it comes to that is never questioned, is never second guessed. And I think that's what allows us to then plug in and work so hard because we trust each other to show up when we can. And if
Mhm.
someone's saying, hey, I can't, or something's come up, we absolutely like give that space to let people take the time that they need to take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think that there's something so special about how we work and where we work. And I was gonna, no, shocker, I was gonna say the same thing that Kianna just said, but it's just the like open, honest communication, no egos, no squeaky wheels. I feel like that's Gigasavvy in a nutshell.
Mm.
And it's very, very unique and special. I definitely don't take that for granted any day of the week because I have yet to be in a place that's this connected, but this seamless in the way that we're working together, we're collaborating. Of course, there's moments where, there's high emotion or, deadlines are coming at you every which way.
Mhm.
But it comes back to that open and honest communication where we're like, okay, hold on, time out. How can we adjust? How can we kind of reset, if you will? And I think that just kind of as the foundation allows us to work the way that we work and it doesn't feel so heavy or like I'm an island all the way over here and everyone else is over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very, very unique. And I think that it's been this like very unique culture that's been kind of cultivated over time. And I've been lucky enough to be part of it.
Mm. I think I want to come back to the culture, and Kyle, I'll ask you about that in a second because I am curious how you've helped cultivate it. But the more important question is, what did you guys answer on the salty or sweet snack question? So did each of you have a definitive answer on that?
Yes, salty all the way. Give me some chips. I
Yeah.
love chips.
I'm a sweet guy. I have the worst sweet tooth ever. It's my weakness, unfortunately, because sugar has been proven these days to not be as healthy as we all thought, maybe, or maybe it's not as unhealthy. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Sweet's always the go-to for me. I don't
I
mind.
get-
Like some people were like, I really like some salty first and then some sweet afterwards, and I can get on board with
Like
that.
straight sweet, please.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
That's amazing. That's great. It's funny. I would have said salty pre meeting my wife, but now it's definitely both. My wife definitely helped me develop my sweet tooth. That was one of the
Love
gifts
that.
of marriage. I'm kind of both. I like the idea of like
Yeah.
going a little salty and then having a little ice cream or something after it. Yeah. Yeah. I love that kind of thing because I do think it's like a very sort of small sliver of the culture question, right? Which is how do you, particularly in a remote environment, which you guys now have been in for 6 years, how do you build a culture that's like what you're talking about, where it feels sort of seamless and easy, which is hard to do in any environment, and you get people who seem to, this is always this tricky thing with culture. You want people who are sort of on the same page, but not the same, right? That so you're bringing different things together, but you're all sort of there for the same reason at a higher level. So Kyle, how do you do that? I mean, that seems like a tricky proposition.
Well, to Kiana's point earlier, there was definitely like an office culture, and then there was like a remote culture. There were differences, but at the same time, it was grounded in the same principles, which have
Mm-hmm.
already been kind of stated a couple times, which is this like, endless support and respect for each other. And, I like to always say sometimes I think people are more accountable to each other than they are to me as their leader or to their manager or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just everybody's here for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always been the mentality. I mean, in some ways too, I think remote became a blessing for culture in the ways that it stripped away all the things that you can be mistaken by defining your culture by. Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, like when they're asked, what's your culture like? Whether they intend to or not, they talk about things that are in their office, right? Like,
Right.
oh, we've got this cool meeting
Mhm.
space, or we've got this, ping pong table or the bowling lane or like
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not your culture. Like your office building and the things inside it are just things. Like that is not
Mm-hmm.
what it's about. And and we've, gosh, I'm the first to admit that in 18 years, I would have expected as a company to be maybe further along sort of financially and growth wise than maybe we have at this particular time.
Yeah.
But I know why. It's because we've constantly made decisions more focused on culture and people than we have on the financials and the books.
Mm.
And that creates problems. Sometimes like you don't get away with it and things are tight and you run into bumps in the road. And we have in 18 years, no question. But what's never faltered during that time is just our dedication to our people and being, a unit and a group of people that are, collectively doing things for each other as much as they're doing things for the company. I mean, I think it's a maybe a naive thing for a lot of business owners or leaders to think about, right? I think they'd love to think that everybody's acting on behalf of the company.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one nuance to that is in a great culture is that, yeah, maybe you're doing things on behalf of the company, but your definition of the company is the people, not the entity.
Yeah. That's
And
a good distinction. Yeah.
yeah, I guess it's just like, oh, like what did you do for your country today? What did you do
Right.
for your company? It's like, okay, great.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I buy into that. I may say it, but I don't mean it. But
Yeah.
if it's like, hey, what are you doing to support your coworkers today that you love, support, respect, and admire? Like that's probably every day for everybody in a great culture. And I think that's the mentality we like to try to take.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I love that distinction because I do think like, what do I do for my company is so abstract,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and yeah, you can have like, well, our mission is to do
Yeah. Our
something,
goals
and
are
like,
this. Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think those things can be useful, but if you define supporting the agency more through being there for each other, I do think that makes it more tangible It makes it,
Yep.
and it's a little more natural, right? We are wired to connect and collaborate and all those things. We're not necessarily wired to support a company, so to speak.
Yep.
I do wonder, like, you mentioned like the financials and all that stuff. And one of the things that's tricky, I think, when you're, leading an agency or any company is like, how open are you about things like the financials and anything, where is how do you handle the transparency versus if I say this, am I overloading? Am I giving information that's actually like, they can't do anything with it, and therefore it's just creating stress or whatever. So I'm curious, Kyle, from your perspective, and then we'll come to you both, Jacky and Kianna, to kind of just go like how your experience is. So Kyle, what's been your approach regarding that?
Well, I mean, I'm the first to admit I can be an over communicator in some things, right?
Yeah.
And I've been told otherwise, like, you should really be more strategic about how you communicate to your team and your company. And like, I listen for sure. Like,
Yeah.
okay, there's people out there that are way smarter than me and they've grown and led companies much larger, more successful, whatever you want to call it. But I don't know. At the end of the day, I feel like that's also kind of a defining piece of our culture is transparency and off the cuff thinking and not being worried about being judged for what you say, no matter what role you have at the company. And so, yeah, we're pretty open about financials. Like, I think about as open as any company is. We're pretty open about like where we're at. Like, are we failing? Are we succeeding? Because, any moment in time can have a different answer. I think one thing I can say I think is pretty clear is that everybody collectively knows when we're struggling and when we're thriving. And I think that's a really strong indicator of a good culture, right? Like a bad culture could have half the company thinking we're crushing it and the other half is like we're failing. And that means that there's not good communication and there's not people on the same page. And so I've always been like, okay, well, let's over communicate, because the worst thing that could happen is everybody's on the same page. And if everybody's on the same page, we feel things together, we can relate more as people and as coworkers, and we get along better. And that's where all that support and, admiration and things that we talked about earlier come from is I think that's where it starts. So I'm still a big fan of over communicating if there is going to be a fault one way or the other. And, we'll see how the future unfolds.
Yeah. I'm curious for you guys, Kianna, how are you experiencing that, and what feels like the right amount of information to be getting from Kyle on the leadership?
I mean, I feel like the thing about our team is that we all feel this collective sense of ownership for the success of this agency because we are such a team mindset. So it doesn't feel like it's up to Kyle if the agency succeeds or not, because especially in the working team, working with the clients, like it kind of feels like it's shared amongst all of us of, okay, how do we make sure that we're doing good work, that we're proud of, that we can stand behind, and that we're able to scale and grow. So I feel like having the level of transparency is definitely helpful, like to Kyle's point, so that we are all on the same page and kind of know what's going on, where the priority is, where the focus is, and also why decisions might be made versus others, to have context behind that. I think being on the account team, it definitely like affects our jobs and kind of what we do and maybe where we put our focus or the types of projects that we go after, again, so that we can kind of be doing our part in, helping make sure that we're aligned with where the agency is going, what the vision is, what kind of work we're going after, maybe what kind of work we're not going after. And just all really kind of remaining aligned in that. And I feel like what's particularly cool about having that sense of ownership too is that we can support each other in our goals, even beyond financials. So for example, if I know that there's a potential really cool project that could come in for like a huge scale activation, and I'm like, man, this would be so cool to work on. I know Jacky would love to work on this. That can be something that we, kind of go after, that we work on, and then gets to be a cool project for Jacky to kind of like imagine and dream and concept about. And so we all get to kind of support each other in multiple lanes. And I feel like that's what helps the agency, all of us kind of grow together as a team.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Jacky? How are you feeling about that?
I very much enjoy it. I am an oversharer as well, just by nature.
Yeah.
So I think that the transparency component in the workplace is extremely helpful. I
Hmm.
have very much admired it and liked it when we have our get-togethers and we talk about the progress and moving forward and the ups and downs if we're going through it. But it just feels like I'm not over here feeling like I'm a crazy person, like maybe I'm reading too much into things. Like I just know, like we just
Mm.
know. There's no, like secrets or, like hidden agendas. It just feels so open and honest. And I think that's another layer of something that's unique in this space because I think it's very easy, probably easier for Kyle to be like, actually, I'm not going to say half of these things because I
Hmm.
don't need to, as the owner of the company. And so I think for him to be able to have that transparency and that open communication, it just allows, I don't know, it just kind of sets this really special tone.
Yeah.
But I very much like it. It's very
Yeah.
helpful to just know what's going on.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for listening. If you're liking what you hear and like the idea of making work not suck, I invite you to schedule a free half-hour discovery session. What role is work playing in your life right now? Let's talk about it. All right, back to the show. I mean, one of the things I always found as a creative that can be tricky is like, because Kianna, you mentioned like on the account side, like the numbers are a little more ingrained in what you do.
Mm-hmm.
But as a creative, it's like if I hear, oh, we're struggling, it's not always as clear to me like, well, what do I do about that other than just work hard, right? I mean, and I don't know, Kyle, if you have a thought on this too, just like how do you connect those dots or can you connect those dots around, what do you do if you're in that position and the agency's struggling a little bit for folks who aren't as directly involved on the revenue side or the cost side? What's the advice? What's the experience? I mean, Kyle, I'm curious to get your perspective, and then Jacky, maybe, we'll follow up with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think this answers your question, but it's a thought that I feel like it's important to say. Sometimes like I've reached a point now at the agency where I'm even though we're a small shop, like I'm not involved in the work near as much as I used to be. And
Mhm.
like overall probably not involved that much. And I think when you reach that point as a leader, your first fear is like, what do how do I communicate what I'm doing then, right? Because if the agency's doing all this work and I'm not involved in it, well, what is Kyle doing, right? And so I
Mhm.
think some people fault or err on the side of like making stuff up. There's all this business stuff that I'm
Yeah.
doing. There's all the financials and all the da 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 da. And it's like, no, it's not that actually.
Mhm.
It's being there for your people when they need it and making sure that you give yourself time and space to think about things and give yourself the opportunity to make the best possible decision when you have to.
Mhm.
And if you're too busy, faking it or, miscommunicating because you're insecure about the fact that you don't have work to do anymore that you used to do,
Mhm.
that's a problem. And it takes a while to get used to it, right? Like when you
Yeah.
first kind of make that transition. And I've been there. I've been on the other side of it where, and that's probably why, I felt that where it's like, okay, I haven't, I had jobs previous to owning Gigasavvy, and it's like you wonder like what are these guys doing up there? What are these girls doing? Like what
Yeah.
are they up to, up
Yeah.
there? And so you have a choice as a leader, right? To either, find ways to be open and honest about what you're thinking about, what you're working on, or you make up a bunch of stuff that you're not really doing. And I think you get into hot water there, and that's where the disconnect starts happening between
Mhm.
leadership and the people in the work because it's fake. It's like you're making it up because of your insecurities. So don't be insecure. Talk about what it is that you really are tasked with because
Yeah.
it's hard sometimes. Like, sayings
Yeah.
like it's lonely at the top and all that, they're real because
Mhm.
you can't always lean on your team. Your team's looking at you to make the decisions. So give yourself the time and space to do it.
Mm. Yeah. Jacky, I'm curious, for you, how you handle, when it is a little bit more of a tougher time in the agency. What is that? What do you change for yourself? How do you show up differently, if at all?
A great question. I think that my relationships with the account managers is one that's very special in the way that when we're going through it, or, there's some hiccups, they're also very open and honest with me. So, there's this layer of like, Kyle speaks out and tells us what's going on. Obviously, there's like a weight on the account managers as to what Kianna kind of touched on already. And then from there, it's like, when it comes to me with the creative, I feel it for sure. And so how do I shift it? How do I pivot? I think it's where the collaboration process comes through. Just using Kianna as an example, like with her client relationships, with the way that she knows the client like the back of her hand, that's where we were able to collab and figure out, okay, what's going to be the best thing for us to like work on this project, or what's something that's going to wow the client and just like keep going and get that acceleration or continue the momentum. And so I think that the collaboration is kind of just pushed into high gear, maybe more than before. Or, for me, when we were talking about kind of when inspiration strikes, it's so hard because sometimes it doesn't strike during the working hours.
Yeah.
And like, oh, crap, like my deadline is in a couple days or whatever. But for me at this point in my career, it's really about just trusting the process. And that is one that is so challenging and so hard to get to, but it has helped me and has honestly not failed me yet. Knocked on wood, but it's something that I just really work hard on. I always want whatever I do to just be the best and keep kind of one-upping myself. So I think that mentality comes in clutch in times like that. But I would say that paired with the collaboration of the account team, it just helps it, and it's kind of proven that it works. So
yeah, I mean, that trusting the process is important, and I think there's an individual layer there, and then there's a sort of organizational layer, right? Because I think I'm sure all of us have been in situations where that trust isn't there, either for ourselves or sort of collectively. And that's when things get hairy. That's when people start getting a little more at each other, or there's sort of political gamesmanship that happens. And so it seems like that's a multi-pronged effort from all of you, both in terms of managing your own, interaction with your own process, and then giving everyone a little space to stay in the process, which is not easy to do in agency land.
Yeah.
It's like, the weight of all those pressures is omnipresent. It's just always right there. I mean, I'm curious, Kyle, like, do you ever feel like you need to do anything with that? Or is it more like you just sit back and trust that you've laid the groundwork? Or do you ever feel like you need to remind people of that?
I think I definitely feel like I need to remind people of that. And sometimes it's still a group effort. Like I always say, we meet as a team quarterly, and I see the cycle every single time. And Jacky and Kianna have heard me say this, where it's like the 2 or 3 weeks prior to our meetups, people start feeling this like tension and this disconnect and this thing. And then it's like we all get together again and get out of the norm, meet all somewhere, spend time together. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, I do like my job after all. Everything's great. It's like, and it happens like this over and over and over again. So yeah, I think as a leader, it's definitely it's really important that your people and you can observe and make decisions accordingly, right? Like we've said we've wanted to meet a little more frequently than we had in the past. And so we scheduled another, sort of impromptu meetup, for a couple of weeks from now, when we weren't planning to get together till June. And it was just like, I think this is what's needed right now. And, we're going to go do it. I think that you got to know your people, I think, to manage a great culture, right? Because, as referenced earlier, when we had, I think it was 45 people or something like that was our peak from a headcount perspective. And the reason that didn't work, or one of the reasons it didn't work, is we had different cultures within that group. And one culture was very, and it's not a bad thing, it was just different than the rest, right? So the one culture was very like, not cutthroat, but like performance driven, right? It's like, I'm here to grow my job and my resume and my experience and my expertise. And if I'm not feeling that I'm going to start pointing fingers, or I'm going to start looking for another job, or I'm going to put pressure on leadership to facilitate this growth a little more.
Yeah.
Where the other side is still performance driven. It's still like, hey, I want to grow in my role, but it's also like I want to grow as a person, and I want to do it with a group of people that I want to be around, because let's be honest, I'm with these people more than I'm with my own family. So I'm not going to throw that away at the expense of personal individual success. And if you know what camp you're in, I think that's the first step in my mind to like overseeing, managing, and cultivating a good culture. It's like it starts with hiring and the people that you bring in. And if you're bringing in different mentalities, like, you know, and I'm the first to admit it, like I made hiring quote unquote mistakes in the past because you're just super impressed by somebody. Somebody's like, they've got an amazing background, they're driven, they've got, you know, all this stuff. And you're like, gosh, like what an asset this person would be to this company. And if you don't stop and think how they are going to then work with the rest of your people in the culture, it ain't gonna work. I don't care how awesome this person is, it just doesn't work. And so we've been really intentional over the last 5-6 years. It's like, well, number one most important thing, how's this person gonna work with the rest of the team? And check, okay, great. Now we can talk about talent and background and experience. But if that first thing doesn't pass, like it's just a no-go. I don't care who you are, what background you're at, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's really interesting. The hiring thing, I think, is underappreciated, just how critical that is. I think a lot of people, like you said, it's like it initially can come across as a purely a sort of skills-based assessment. It's just, it's a resume competition. It's a portfolio competition. It's a whatever competition, as opposed to, no, we've spent a lot of time crafting and curating this culture. Who's going to come in and want to be a part of it and share some of the same kind of values around it. It was funny because you said, you know, they're really going to be an asset. And it was like, well, take the ET off sometimes. And that's what they end up being, right?
We've got a couple of those for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's a tough one too. I mean, because when you get to that place, then what do you do? I mean, when you have a culture that's well cultivated, it's also very easy for one person to potentially kind of disrupt that if they're not, you know, kind of buying into the values and the ethos that you all have.
Yep.
How do you manage that? I mean, what is the approach? And I'm curious actually about this from all perspectives, because I think there's one question around from a leadership perspective, and then there's when you're in it and somebody just doesn't seem to be kind of wanting to contribute in the same way that most of you are. How do you deal with it? So maybe I'll start with you, Jacky. I mean, have you had an experience where, and it doesn't even have to be nothing specific, but just more like when you notice that, what do you do when you notice that somebody's not fully connected to the culture?
Tough.
Yeah.
Hard. You're like, wait, what's happening? Why are we not on the same page?
Yeah.
I mean, I've experienced that a couple times. I think the thing that's unique about Gigasavvy is that the majority, and at this point we're all on the same page in terms of where our work ethic lies and how we conduct ourselves, all of that. But when it's not on the same page, because the majority has the same mentality, I think it's easier for those kind of people and their actions or whatever to kind of like come back, like to mold back, or maybe it's not the right fit. You know what I mean? And maybe it's as simple as that. But yeah, that's a toughie, because we all are like, I don't know. There's just, you asked this earlier, like, how do we all have something that we bring to the table? It's so different. Like, we're not all the same people. We're not like million clones. We're all very, very different, but we all have that like very key foundation of like who we are, how we are at work, what we stand for. And just to speak to the hiring process, you didn't ask this, but just to speak to the hiring process, that I completely agree. Completely does not get the praise and accolades that it deserves, specifically here, because I remember going through so many interviews and being like, what is this place? Like, they're really vetting. Like, my goodness. Yeah. Hopefully I make it. But now on the other side, I realize why, and why that's such an important key to this like magical little space that we have here. And it's
Yeah.
because that process takes time, and it takes the right questions, and it takes meeting most of the team to like really get a sense of like, it's not just leadership. How does everyone else feel? Like, so there's just so much like trust and respect throughout that process specifically, to where when someone comes on, I mean, they've been like fully vetted. If there's a hiccup at that point, like
Yeah.
what has happened? But
They deserve an Oscar or something for how
truly,
they
like getting the acting.
performed.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think to your original question, it's tough, but I think because of the very strong foundation that we all individually have, any sort of like fallout, I guess, or like
Yeah.
feelings of tension or whatever, I think it just kind of naturally comes back into this like happier space, because it's so much easier to be kind of with the majority. And the majority is like, we're just trying our best, like good vibes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my long-winded answer.
No, I appreciate it. I think there's really interesting insights in there. What's your experience, Kianna?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in the 8 years that I've been here, and like all the different ways that Gigasavvy has been, and different sizes of the team and different types of departments, I've seen a lot of players involved in this. I would definitely say that where we're at today is like the most consistent in terms of looking at the team and like identifying between each of us. You can easily see that common thread of like, I mean, you saw it here in the first like 5 minutes of us talking that Jacky, Kyle, and I share a similar mindset. I think that extends to the rest of the team as well, is that passion, drive, and work ethic is there. So I think more specific, it's not so much when someone is the wrong fit, but I'll kind of morph your question into maybe what happens when there is a disagreement internally.
Yeah.
Which definitely happens. To Jacky's point, we are all very different people. We have different opinions on things. Creative can also be very subjective in certain instances. But I think what makes that work, and what allows us to maintain the respect that we all have for each other, is that we all trust each other to do the job that we are in. And I think everyone is very good at not overstepping onto someone else. So when it truly comes down to a disagreement, it will fall in whoever's purview or whoever's like area that is. And then, I mean, a lot of the times I'm the one that says, okay, we don't have to go with my idea. And half the time that's great. But just respecting each other to say, you know what, this isn't my call to make. Thank you for hearing me out. Thank you for giving me a space to voice my opinion, let you know why I'm thinking this. I can hear you back. I see why you disagree with what I'm saying. And you know what, that makes sense. And I trust you to make this call. Let's go forward with it. But, and I think Jacky already said this earlier, everyone's really good at not coming to this with an ego. We're here to collaborate. We're here, we have very cool jobs where we get to come up with cool ideas, do cool things, bring things out of our brains into the world. And at the end of the day, you know, we all share that goal. So I think having that collective mentality and respect for everyone's individual roles really allows us to navigate through any sort of disagreements or anything that are naturally going to come up in a workplace. Because I think another red flag is like, nobody disagrees ever and everything's just kumbaya. Like, that's not real.
Yeah. No, I mean, what you just described is like, it's interesting because I feel like if you all can bottle it and sell it, there's something really special there, because the process of
Let's change our business again, Kianna. We're going to bottle it and sell it instead.
like the ability to give people space to explore ideas and to sort of understand who's ultimately responsible for making the calls. That might be like 90% of the challenge within an agency. Sometimes is this combination of, I don't get to feel heard, or, you know, I think I should be making this decision, and then this person, you know, and nobody knows like who's ultimately accountable, and nobody's actually willing to say like who owns the thing. So the ability to define those roles and the accountability clearly enough, and to create a culture of respect where there's room to say, I want to hear you. And on occasion, maybe even go, I hadn't even thought of that. That's really interesting. Or that's interesting. I wonder if we can, you know, mash a few thoughts together here. Or it's interesting, but I don't think it's right today for this reason. And being able to go like, okay, thank you. I felt heard. Like that. That is probably, I don't know. I'm just guessing. There's probably a lot of agency people who are going to be listening to this. I think a lot of people would be like, I don't know if I've had that experience in
And it's tough.
in a while.
It's tough to pull off, right? Like I think I hope anyway, because I'm a fan of our industry and the expertise that we all have. But for the most part, agencies are full of a bunch of smart people. And when you have a bunch of smart people, it's easy for those egos to start showing themselves in the bad side of the ego instead of the good side, right? Where it's like things like passive aggressiveness comes out, and other things that create bad work culture are maybe a little bit more natural when you've got a room full of really smart people. And so that's one thing I can say confidently. Like I don't think anybody at the agency now thinks that they're smarter than anybody else, or if they do, they don't think it matters. It's like great, like maybe but it's a non-starter. It's just sort of like, okay, great, like I like that or I don't like that, and let's move on. It's not like, oh, really cool, Jacky, when in reality I'm thinking, what a dumb idea that is. Like I don't think that happens. I really don't.
I think the pairing of the no ego with I guess this is maybe obvious, but the humility component and the humility side, it is so insane to work with such talented human beings who are all so humble. Like that is not a thing. I have yet to see this anywhere else. Maybe it is, but I want to claim it.
Yeah.
But it's just so magical and so cool because it just makes everything so much easier. There's like having those conversations when there's a disagreement. That layer of humility is what makes it just flow and easier to have maybe a hard conversation or a tougher conversation that in any other kind of
sorry for the distraction there.
In any other moment it would be more of a challenge.
I don't know what, just to pause for one quick second. My camera just sort of disconnected and reconnected for some reason. So some of this may get edited a little bit. If you want to come back to any of that, Jacky, feel free. I think the gist of it came through though.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean,
you recovered swiftly, TJ.
Yeah. I mean, I think the humility is a tough thing. I've probably experienced it in a few places where that is the majority way of being, but anybody who's worked in advertising knows that's not always the way it is. I am curious, just curious for you both, Jacky and Kianna, if you were in Kyle's shoes, is there anything you would do differently?
Ooh,
let's go.
Question.
Principle for the day.
Exactly.
We'll be discussing this later.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Can you don't fire me after this? Just kidding.
He schedules immediate follow-up calls with us.
100%.
Right.
Kidding. I feel so we have we meet with Kyle quarterly where he just likes to do check-ins with each of us. And I feel like he kind of asked us this question on a quarterly basis. And so I feel like we have a lot of this like transparency and space to kind of give feedback, even like not only to Kyle, but kind of like everybody on our team. Just if we're like, hey, there's something more I need from you or something I have a question on. We kind of have that culture of transparency there.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was Kyle, what would I do more? Maybe crack more jokes on Slack. I don't know.
Right.
Step up the comedy game.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a tough question.
My answer is so lame. Literally nothing. No, what I was gonna say was, I mean, I've said it enough, but I love working here. I love my coworkers. I really do find this place very special. So to the person that runs that company, no, I don't know. I'm not like deep in the weeds. I'm an art director, but from what I have seen and from what I have experienced, I have very much enjoyed the process and the transparency and the work and this culture. Like, these are some of my best friends that I get to work with every single day. And you're right, these are people that you see more than your own family. So why not have it be this awesome place? And for me to be able to be remote, and even though I am a workaholic and maybe that's unhealthy, but I still have, my family, and they also are very tight with pretty much everyone that I work with too. Like there is just this very, very, very unique kind of place that we're in. And so I don't take it for granted, and I think it's very special. So I guess Kyle, you're doing something right. I think
Let's keep the
I
party
have
going.
no
Yeah,
notes,
yeah.
but
No,
that's just me.
I appreciate the
Excellent.
words.
Excellent. Well, we'll connect later to get the real story. No, I'm just kidding.
Perfect.
Perfect.
So trying to wrap things up here, one of the things I ask, and this is usually with one guest, so this may not be something you all need to answer, but I'd love from one of you, like if you have a question you'd want to pose to the audience who's hearing this conversation around how to work together well as a company and agency and all that stuff.
This is like a question to the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would maybe be like, was anything that we said here, did it seem surprising or very different from your current working environment or the way you work with your team?
Mm-hmm.
Or the flip side, is there anything that you were like, oh my God, me too? Like that seems like table stakes.
Yeah. Okay. I like
That's a
that.
great question.
Yeah.
Good
Yep.
job.
Thank you. Your question was better than mine, Kianna. So let's go with that one.
All right. All right. We'll table the others, or if anything else before we keep going. No,
I think we focus in on that one. I think that's great.
Okay. Cool. Well, another question I like to ask folks is if you could wave a magic wand and fully desuckify the world of work, what would that world look like? Any thoughts on that one?
My wand gets to wave and then I don't have any deadlines ever. That would be great.
I like it.
I think when I think about it like holistically, like outside of Gigasavvy just as a whole, I wish we would change the word work, because like it just automatically puts a negative connotation on what you do for the majority of your time and ultimately what you should be chasing, right? It's sort of like we live in this society that is work in exchange for money, right? I need money to live the life that I want, so I work to get that money, and that's the purpose of work. When I don't think that's really the case. Like, sure, we all need money, and we all, want to achieve bigger things and take trips and buy, take the next step. But, it doesn't need to be called work for starters, I don't think.
Yeah.
And, it's like, what are you passionate about? Should we just be like, I'm going to my passion? I don't know. Like, I don't know what the word is, but like, if we flip the script on it a little bit, it's like what every successful person tells when they have the opportunity to tell their story, right? I thrived financially and I was able to finally achieve success in my life when I figured out how to do what I love, right? So if we could switch that narrative and make it all about that, I think we'd achieve the same end without the work.
I like that. I actually feel like that could be sort of your question to the audience, which is, what is the alternative word to work that captures everything you just said? So we'll throw that out there as well.
Okay, good.
Any thoughts, Jacky or Kianna, on this? Kianna, I know you already said no deadlines. Jacky, do you have any thoughts?
On what?
On the, if you could kind of desuckify the world of work, waving the magic wand, what does that look like?
Dang it. Maybe more hours in the day?
Yeah.
Like, literally, please, can we figure that out? Or time travel? I think it's so hard to do so much in the amount of time. And we've talked about it before, especially in the creative space. It's like sometimes you just have to do it outside, and you have to be okay with that if you want to be. There's no mandate, but it just makes everything a little trickier, So I think, if we could like figure out a way for there to be more hours in the day, I'd be like a happy camper. I think that'd be sick.
Got really simple asks here. No deadlines and more hours in the day. Yeah. So
we're not asking for a lot.
I don't know. Can't AI do this? I thought AI was, supposed to solve everything. So
I think that's what AI says it's trying to do, right? It's trying
theoretically, maybe. We'll see. Yeah. One of the last things I like to ask is something, you talked about having fun and trying to do something silly or funny. I always do sound effects on this show. If you listen to the show, I put a lot of cat sounds in the beginning of the show, and I always invite the guest or guests to bring their own sound that will also show up in the show. So, do any of you have a sound you'd like to make or offer that we can put out there?
Yes.
Yes. What do we got?
Let me preface my sound. So usually at the end of any song, I'll make this sound. It's okay. It's gonna be so lame. Everyone's gonna hate it.
It was great.
You're gonna love it, Kianna.
Yeah.
Thanks. So it's literally this. Wow. That's it. And I do that at the end. Anytime there's a last note of the song just ended, I go, wow. And that's it. That's when you know the song's done. My kids do it. It's like a whole thing.
That's hilarious. I think I don't think that's lame at all. I think it's funny. It feels like a very signature kind of a thing, like a trademark move. I love it. Either you other guys have any sounds, or are we're letting that one kind of hold
I
it
can't
for
top
us?
that.
Yes, you can. Actually, very easily.
Well, I'll give you a sound that I try to not emote because I think it's like the number one downer at a job or at your work. Whether it never actually sounds like this, but this is how it feels a lot of the time when you have a culture maybe that isn't collaborative and isn't all the things that we explained. It's right? Like, because I think that's kind of how a lot of people feel, right? They're like, oh, I'm so excited to ask a question, or I'm so excited to present something. And the answer is okay. And it may be a passive aggressive answer. It may be a placating answer. It may be a whatever, but how you feel in that moment is So yeah, that's my sound.
That's
Be
a
honest,
really
Kyle.
that's a really interesting idea, Kyle. Yeah, I'm gonna think about that.
Did
That
you used
kind of
to do that in the
response, right?
office,
Where you're
Kyle?
just like very clearly not welcoming an idea. Yeah, I get that. There's plenty of that sound probably in every workplace, but the ability to minimize it like you guys are doing is great. Well, the last thing I ask is just, and I think this one's relatively simple, but what's the best way for people to learn more about Gigasavvy? And then, if they want to, connect with any of you kind of more personally, what are the best avenues for that?
Yeah, I mean, go to our website at www.no. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gigasavvy.com. That's Gigasavvy. But honestly, we're easy. We're simple. You met Jacky. Her name is spelt how you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And no, it's not an IE, it's a Y. Kianna is Kianna and I'm Kyle, and we're all just our first names at gigasavvy.com. So if you ever want to reach out to any of us, it's our first name and Gigasavvy. So yeah, send a note. We'd be happy to collaborate and talk about whatever you'd like.
Awesome. Sounds good. I assume you guys are on LinkedIn as well.
Yes,
feel
sir.
like you all are, right? Yeah. Well, I'll point people so that they can, track you down and learn more about this stuff. I think you'll have a few folks who are like, what is this collaborative, humble culture you speak of? I don't understand. And they may be kind of picking your brains a little bit after this because
They're like, you're lying. We're not.
I think it's going to be hard for some people to believe.
And be like, how much did your boss pay you to?
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We'll post pictures of your new cars after this. Yeah.
Unrelated.
Yeah. Just weird. Yeah. Well, I thank you both. Thank you. And thank you all, for hanging on a little bit longer than when we scheduled for. I know you guys are busy. You've got work to do as workaholics. You got work you want to do, which is it's a really wonderful gift, actually, to have work that you actually want to do. And you want more hours in the day because you want to do more of the things you want to do, whether it's your work, your family, etc. So this was a fun conversation. I really thank you guys for kind of getting into it, exploring some different areas and helping folks see like how things can be, with a little work and a little collaboration around building a good culture. So thank you all.
Sure. No, and I very much admire what you're doing, TJ. I think like coming from, you were an agency guy too, and worked at some big shops, some small shops, and you've got some great perspective. And I think like the whole idea of desuckifying work is something I'm a big fan of. So I was happy to join. I'm glad we had a good chat.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Yeah. All right. We will connect soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for tuning into the DesuckifyWork podcast. And a huge thanks to Kyle, Jacky, and Kianna for bringing a fresh look at company culture to the show. You can follow each of them and the agency on LinkedIn and check out gigasavvy.com to learn more about what they're putting out into the world. If you enjoyed the conversation and would like to find some calm in the chaos of work, I invite you to schedule the free half-hour discovery session. Type meow in the calendar invite, and I'll also send you a free DesuckifyWork t-shirt. Bye, everyone.